Alright, well today, May 15th, 2020, we're going to continue working this Kurt Busch 2019 Monster Energy 164 custom diecast. As you can see, I've completed adding the decals to them, and it's turning out pretty good. The decals have dried overnight, and so the first thing we're going to do today is we're going to add a coat of clear sealer on the car, and we're going to try to put probably 5 coats of clear sealer on it. And after we do that, and again, this is the clear sealer that we use, Pledge Floor Care Finish. I think I bought this at like Home Depot or Walmart or something, but you put it on in thin coats. Use the brush, and I'll show you how to do that. I've transferred some of it to this micro set bottle that is now my sealer, and so I use that for easy access. After we put the 5 coats of sealer on it, because that really seals in the decals, it gives it a nice glossy finish. The next thing we're going to do, because Kurt Busch, his race cars are typically like a matte black finish. So what I purchased a little while ago was this Tester's dual coat top coat, and or dull coat, sorry, and got this at Hobby Lobby for about $5. And I'll shake this up, and so you don't want to put this on right after the decals because they will chew up the decals. This is like an enamel based product, so you want to put the 5 coats of sealer on it. 4 is probably enough, but I like to put an extra one on there. Put 5 coats of that on, and then 2 thin coats of this to give it that matte dull finish, and that will be, yeah, that'll be the final touches for this car. So one other thing just to point out, I put all the decals on. The other thing that I like to do with this car and all my cars is I like to just get a dot of silver or aluminum for the hood pins on the hood, as well as on the trunk here. There's 2 there and 4 there, and I just use this Tester's aluminum and shake it up a little bit, and then I get just a little bit on this toothpick, and I'll just kind of dot it that way, and try to make them uniform and even as much as possible. Of course, I've done that, and that's already ready to go, dried. So let's go ahead and put a coat of the sealer on it. I like to shake it up a little bit. I don't think there's a lot of product in there that settles, but it may settle. So I'll shake it up and let it sit for a little bit before I put it on. So set the camera over here, and let's do this. It's got some bubbles in it, so I want to just wait a second. Typically, I also like to put a couple coats on the bottom, just so this the paint that I did down here won't lift, and that'll be sealed in. But I can do that afterwards. This product takes about 15 to 20 minutes to dry completely. And this is an important step because you want to make sure there's no fuzzies, little debris that will get stuck in the coat as you put it on. You want to try to make sure it's as free of any type of, like I said, little fuzzies or whatever that may be floating in the air. And yeah, So that looks pretty good. And as always, I wash my hands, soap and water, before I start the video and start working with the cars. It's amazing the kind of oils and stuff that your body generates, that you touch the car, you can see your fingerprints on it, and so you have to wash them every time before you start messing with it. So I kind of get just this first coat's kind of just a regular thin coat, but I do want to get full coverage all over, and I do go over the windshield and the plastic pieces. The only areas I don't touch are the wheels and the driver's net. And just like you're doing your own car, when you wash it, you kind of work top to bottom. Start at the roof and work your way. Yeah, today being Friday, 2 days away from NASCAR starting again. Yeah, no fans, but just going to be great to see them on the track. I've enjoyed watching some of their iRacing events, but nothing compares to the real thing. So glad to see that they're able to get back on the track. Hope the teams are able to stay safe and there's no spread of this corona COVID-19 virus. Came from China. But yeah, just excited to see the cars back on the track and sponsors being able to display their logos and just get the economy back running again, and the sport, of course, back at it. Really looking forward to that. So typically, you can see how I'm holding the car. I like to hold it with my thumb and my forefinger on the back wheels, and then my other finger's kind of suspending up in the middle of the car. So again, I'm not touching anywhere on the surface of the actual car, and it just seems to be the best way to do it. You want to make sure, as with anything that you're painting or applying, that you don't have a surplus in a particular area where it would group and create like a little ball or bubble once it dries. So make sure the bottom areas are again, you don't have just too much that kind of sink to the bottom on the sides and stuff. And once you go over an area, you really don't want to go back over it while it's drying. So that's the first coat. Pretty simple, but doing this and doing it right takes time. And so we'll let that dry for 15-20 minutes before I put another coat. Rinse my brush off in the water here. Probably need to replace the water later today. Just show you some of the other efforts I got going on while that dries. I've got a 2010 Crown Royal Purple that I'm doing. Again, this is just a car. I don't have a request for it, but just a car I'm making that I'll end up selling on eBay. I always look forward to doing Matt Kenseth cars, but when you have like a nice metallic purple color, it's just really sharp. I look forward to doing that. Mentioned yesterday, I'm working as a request for a 2012 Pink EcoBoost. Stripped that one. It's dry. Now I just need to kind of go over a wire brush again with that before I start applying the primer to it. Got another Kurt Busch car I'll make. So I'll make two of them. I like to make two at one time. Just you can you're doing the same paint, you're doing the same type of decal work, and you know, when I sell them, sometimes I'll put them up as auctions, and if I have if I do a no reserve auction, I get a winning bidder. I can, if I have a second one, I can send a second chance offer to the person that comes in second place in the bidding, and then they can get get basically the same kind of quality car that's there. Here's a 2011 Jeremiah Weed that I'm working. I'm gonna put the put the top coat on. The top coat for this is going to be this Rust-Oleum gloss marigold. It's kind of a deeper yellow. I use this for some of my DeWalt cars as well, and it goes on pretty good. There's a number of different yellows. I do use this yellow for which is just your regular Rust-Oleum yellow. I use that for DeWalt as well. There's this sun yellow that's there. I don't use that as much. It's just a little bit of a brighter yellow. And then the other yellow over here that I do use from time to time is the high performance yellow that I get from usually Home Depot. That is what I use for the Ryan Blaney cars as he's moved to the number 12 team for Roger Penske. He's been driving a lot of different yellow, kind of bright yellow paint schemes. This seems to be the best match to that. And those high performance enamels are, they run $5-6 a can. The other cars I have working over here are a 2013. This is a fantasy car. It's a GameStop, a Grand Theft Auto. Matt Kenseth never drove this car, but Pato sells the decals. Some people, collectors, like to have cars that, although they weren't driven on the track, they were cars that, or decals that Pato made or somebody made, and just, again, something unique to have in their collection. This car, however, a GameStop 2014 Evolve, Matt Kenseth. This is a very, very rare paint scheme. He drove this one, and it's kind of challenging to make this one because the base color is black, but the decal set here doesn't come with the rear deck lid, which would be right here, of gray. So I try to match this gray as it fades from black to gray, and with some of my, I mix some gray together to get that deck lid to be gray as well. Looking at pictures of the car on the track, it's gray, and so instead of just leaving it black, I have to do that. So not always are the decals from Pato 100% correct, and sometimes you have to improvise and do some extra work to get it to that next level of trying to be as much as possible a die-cast that looks like what was driven on the racetrack. That's my goal. Sometimes it's just not possible. You get into working on some of these things, and it's just, the juice isn't worth the squeeze, so to say. And the more you try to do it, the worse the actual die-cast becomes. But in this case, I can try that. So let me show you what I do with wire brushing these two cars. I have dipped them in the stripper, got the bulk of the paint off, and now I'm gonna wire brush and use some steel wool on those. So let's try that. This one's not too bad. Most of the paint is off, but I'm trying to get all of this shined up and paint out of the little grooves so that the new coat of paint and the decals will sit nicely on there and conform to the body of the metal die cast. Sometimes, where's my X-Acto knife? Sometimes you get some paint that resides in tight spots, so I use my X-Acto knife to scrape it out. I don't do too much on the underbody, but because obviously that's not seen inside there, but yeah, just cleaning it up and getting it ready for the primer. I used to not do this. I used to just dip it and kind of clean it off with a toothbrush and soap and water and then paint it. And I found that various times the paint would just not adhere to it. And I said, you know what, I'm going to do this differently. I'm going to start wire brushing these things and using a little steel wool to do this. Some of the wheel wells have some paint in there, so I kind of scrape it out with the blade. Alright. Steel wool is a mess. I bought some cheap stuff from a northern tool place, and it kind of falls apart pretty easily, but just trying to get any remaining stuff off. Really shine it up. Okay. Looks pretty good. Well, yeah. Okay. That's ready for primer. Now this one's a mess. Sometimes the vinyl die cast, I don't know, it just the solution doesn't do as well of a job on it as you would like. So there's a little bit of an extra step needed. Spend a little bit more time scraping. Some of these cars I've had to dip twice into the solution of stripper. And then sometimes, the stripper solution that I continually reuse and reuse and reuse, I gotta obviously replace that at different times if I don't feel it's as effective as it used to be. But in this case, it's just a mess. You can see just a buildup of stuff there. Yeah, you got to be careful with these X-Acto knives. Obviously, cut yourself. I've stabbed myself multiple times. So you got to kind of be careful and respect the blade. Tell you what, let's get the steel wool over here. Trying to get some of this heavy stuff. Let's try the steel wool. See if that gets some of this as well. A little bit easier. It doesn't have to be perfectly clean. I mean, that other car was perfectly clean, pretty nice. But you just don't want any, raised surface existing paint on there. something that would show through after you prime and top coat it. You want all that stuff removed as much as possible. Probably should have some gloves on when I'm doing this, but oh well. Had a good devotion with my daughters this morning, thinking about how to discern God's will for your life and the importance of prayer and Bible reading, seeking the Lord as to what your purpose is for life and what He wants you to do. It's tough, He doesn't come out and say, hey, I want you to be an engineer. Hey, I want you to be a doctor. Hey, I want you to be a welder. Doesn't always say that so clearly. The one thing He wants is He wants our hearts. He wants our obedience, of course, but He wants our hearts and our love and devotion. And it's not that He needs it, but that's what's best for us. When we love and worship and obey God, it just brings a great satisfaction and happiness to life. Sure, life isn't a bed of roses. Life is tough, but God sees us through it, and promises to always be with us, never leave us or forsake us. We can trust Him fully, and just excited to have 2 daughters that love the Lord, want to do what's right in their lives, and excited for what God has in store for them, and hope that they make good choices in their lives. As young teenagers, they are prone to making wrong choices, but pray that God keeps them from that. And when they do, obviously they will, but that God would gently correct them and bring them back on track. So this is turning out okay. Getting close to being done here. So this is next step after this is going to be painting. I'll show that tomorrow with some of the work that I've got left to do on these. As you can see, I work on 5-6 cars at the same time because they're at different stages, and while one's drying or one's I'm sealing that car, I can work on something else. And so hope you have a great day. I'm gonna continue pushing on with these and continue posting videos, just showing the process of doing this, and trying again make the best customs for that adult collector. Not really making cars for kids, although kids sometimes buy them, but I'm making cars for people to put in their collection, not for them to play with or race with, but cars that can be a centerpiece. Now, if they want to race them, they want to play with them, I'm trying to make the cars as fully functional as a Lionel diecast, but if you're going to spend $25 for a custom, it's not usually something you want to race. Now, if you want to do a stop motion or something like that, I've seen that. It's pretty cool, actually. You could use this, use these cars for that purpose, but usually it gets cost prohibitive because of all the time and effort I put into it and just the quality. People bid them up. So, all right, that's pretty good. Clean these out a little bit. It's hard to get the wire brush in there. See some. All right, well, we'll wrap this up. You guys have a great day. God bless you, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.